And for more on the Jackson Holdings raise or not to raise the bid from American investments, Axel, great to have you back on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Great to.
Axel, Fed shares slack in the labor market, but also, quote, considerable uncertainty about the level of employment. She's saying the Fed might raise rates soon, but then again, might not. So she's really still remaining very vague, probably deliberately playing it down the middle. In your opinion, did we learn anything new from her testimony today? Were you able to get more clarity of the Fed direction and timeline?
Well, if you're not confused, you're not paying attention, I think. What's been happening, Yellen had an extremely extensive about a gazillion different ways you can look at the labor markets. And I think part of that is because she's telling you, I'm not going to tell you much. Listen to me. The truth, though, is that they're playing it by ear. I mean, you put the contrast in with Bernanke. Bernanke was an academic who put everything in a framework of a Great Depression, more kind of going one step along the way and is not telling you what to do. That has tremendous implications, of course, for the markets and everybody else. But she really, you said in the very first opening statement, she wants maximum employment. And she's made it clear she wants to keep rates low until inflation is an issue. And that's very relevant because historically speaking, you want to be a step ahead of that game. But the reason you want to do it late is because we were faced with a credit bust. And if you remove the accommodation too early, she's afraid that we'll fall right back down.
Well,
and that's why she wants to be late. She thinks inflation is a problem she can deal with.
Well, she is, as you say, taking it one step at a time. That is leaving the markets a little confused, looking for direction. We did get a little bit of clarity in the minutes of the Fed's July meeting, and we do at least know that policymakers are divided. Some, including Yellen, do want to see more improvement in the labor market before taking action. Others think the economy is ready for those higher rates. What do you think is the right course of action here?
Well, let's think about what this all means. The one thing that you can argue whether the money printing has created jobs or not, but one thing all this money printing has done, it has reduced the risk premium. So suddenly junk bonds don't yield anything anymore. If you buy Portuguese bonds, there's no premium anymore. And so what it means, if we raise rates, if we have a quote-unquote exit, those premium will expand again. Suddenly it will become more expensive for junk bonds to get those. And conversely, of course, look at the stock market. The stock market has been going up and up and up because the stock market is perceived to be quote-unquote safe. Well, that is what investors have to be concerned about. That is, we take steps in that direction. Can we support asset prices? And conversely, because this recovery has been based on asset price inflation, are we going to undo all of that? So that's really what they have to be concerned about. Now, as far as the economy is concerned, it's clearly improving. We have to get back to an environment where prices are based on market principles, not just based on how much money we're printing. And we urgently need to get there. But I'm not calling the shots. It's Janet Yellen who is concerned about getting everybody a job.
Well, inflation, hyperinflation, certainly big concerns. Now, Axel, we also heard from ECB President today, Mario Draghi, and he says the Eurozone's recovery is uniformly weak. He's stressing, however, that he is open to doing more and to maintaining an accommodative stance. What can the ECB do, and what should it be doing?
They cannot do anything and they shouldn't be doing anything. That doesn't mean they won't do anything. Basically, he also said in the speech, you need structural reform. The banks need to be healthy. That's what you need in Europe. The European economy grows because people take loans from banks. There needs to be demand from banks, and banks need to be able to lend. Banks are not healthy yet. Now, conversely, there's a lot of pressure that the European Central Bank, as you point out, should do something. But what should money printing in the Eurozone do?
Well, Axel, what about quantitative easing?
Already.
Axel, sorry to interrupt you, but what about quantitative easing? Some saying that perhaps the Eurozone should be following in the US's footsteps and implement a bond buying scheme.
It already costs almost nothing to borrow anything in the Eurozone. That's not the problem. What should lower rates do any good? Real rates, after inflation, rates in the Eurozone are actually higher than in the US. In the US, we have negative interest rates that are lower than in the Eurozone. But printing money is not going to do much. Is it too expensive, the money that Portugal is getting? If you lower that by a few basis points, that's not going to make the difference. What you need in Europe is healthier banks. And so all these attempts or these calls to print money are not going to fix anything in Europe. The other big issue, of course, in Europe is the crisis with Ukraine. Money printing doesn't fix Ukraine. Money printing doesn't fix banks, doesn't get the labor market more flexible in Europe. And that's the problem Draghi has. So he can talk and talk and talk that he'll be willing and able to do more. But in the end, even if he does go down the QE route, it's not going to do any good in Europe.
All right, Axel, absolutely. We still need to see what the implications of those Russian sanctions will mean for the EU. We'll be checking in with you again. Thank you so much for your expertise.